in today's King's Speech, and it's this: foreign criminals will be deported as part of the government's drive to ease the prison crisis. Around 12% of inmates in British jails are foreign nationals, and a bill mentioned in the King's Speech will see prisoners serving part of their sentences in their home country. Other offenders could be thrown out of the UK altogether. Well, I'm joined now by the human rights lawyer, Shoaib Khan. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Martin. Thanks.
Welcome to the show, Mr. Khan. What do you make of this? This sounds like a Conservative-style policy, kick foreign criminals out of the country, but won't it be human rights lawyers like you that stop this happening?
Yes, it does sound pretty conservative, which, I guess goes to show that there's not much that the Tories actually set out to do that they achieved. Obviously, I don't know how much, if the prisons weren't at breaking point as they are now, whether Labour would have introduced such a policy otherwise, or whether they're just being forced to do that. But other than that, of course, I think we have to look at very carefully the human rights aspects of this, the humanitarian aspects of this. Of course, these are people we're talking about. They're not commodities. It's not to think, they're not just objects where we think, we have too many of them. There's not enough. Let's, deport them, send them to another country. Let's export them. The whole point is, they might have set up family lives here, private lives here, been in the UK for so many years. So, of course, I think that's a very important part of the balancing exercise, as it's known, and that has to be carefully considered.
Well, Mr. Khan, I'm smiling here, not to be patronising, but because I suspect the Labour Party will be facing precisely the same barriers that the Conservative Party faced with their Rwanda bill. And that is human rights lawyers, the European Court of Human Rights, stepping in to prevent government policy, even when it appears to be common sense. And what chance do you think we have of removing a drug dealer, say, from Albania, when it took more than 8 years to extradite hate preacher Abu Hamza al-Maskari, Captain Hook, who had 14 terrorism charges against him? There's no chance of such policy becoming actually enacted, is there? So long as the human rights of criminals, they supersede the human rights of British citizens.
Obviously, why would they supersede that? That's, to be honest, with all due respect, that's utter nonsense, isn't it? That's the whole point. Human rights for everyone. Every human has their rights. The point is, it just depends. Now, I'm British. I'm in the UK. I'm in no danger of being deported from this country. And therefore, someone else who is in danger of that, obviously, their human rights is what we have to consider in that case. So, of course, it's the human rights of the criminals, if you like, or the offenders. But we have to look, and some parts, I think are particularly objectionable or concerning. Like, for instance, instead of prosecuting, and once someone's arrested, potentially charged, then, they will be given the option or they will be deported without being prosecuted and even sentenced. Which to me, at least, we've not seen the details yet. I think that's completely unacceptable. Why would that be the case? We don't start
Okay. Well, let's look at a potential test case then. So the King's Speech today proposes that, say, for example, a rapist who was born overseas is serving, 5, 6, 7 years for rape in Britain, and the government policy says, OK, you are going back to your home country, because that's now the government policy. Would you, as a human rights lawyer, step in and say, no, this rapist has human rights, we're going to make sure he doesn't get deported back to his country, and damn the victim?
Those are four completely different points. Firstly, the rapist has human rights. Yes, he's a human. So, of course, he has rights.
So you would?
The victim has victim's rights. Of course, those rights are there. But the main point is, what is he being deported for? Why is he being, what will happen to him in his home country? Is he going to complete a sentence there, or will he just roam the streets there? Because if he's going to roam the streets there, I think...
The legislation is very clear, Mr. Khan. The legislation is very clear. If you're in prison now and you're a foreign criminal, say you're a rapist, and you meet the criteria, then you'll be sent back to your home country and finish the rest of your sentence there. What's wrong about that? That's a reasonable use of government time, is it not?
So what's wrong about that is that we don't know. Does he have family here? Does he have a wife? Does he have children? Does he have a British wife? Does he have British children here? So, of course, just as happens with any British person who's committed rape, you go to prison, you serve your time, hopefully you're rehabilitated, hopefully the government is doing enough to actually, make you a better person.
And hopefully you won't come out and reoffend and rape somebody else in Britain again. But isn't the point? This law would send criminals back to their home country, and many, many people, now including the Labour government. Now, this is not some far-right crackpot idea. This is the Labour Party proposition to send dangerous foreign criminals back to their home country, and you're saying you'd oppose it.
I'm not saying I would oppose. I'm saying every case is different. The point is, if he has 3 British children and a British wife, and he's going to be released in 3.5 years, I think those children have a right to be with the father in 4 years. Once he served his time, just as we do with any British citizen. We don't, lock them up forever. You can never see your children again. Depends where we're sending them.
But there's a fundamental difference, Mr. Khan. There's a fundamental difference. If somebody is released from prison and they're a British citizen, then, of course, their place is on the streets of Britain. This is a fundamental difference. If you're a foreign dangerous criminal, you'd be sent to your home country where you were born to serve out your time. And if you were released and if you reoffended, that's the problem of that country. It's no longer a British problem. This is a proposed Labour Party policy.
So why is a dangerous rapist, as long as he's British, he's got a British passport, he's safer to roam our streets? Which generally shows this is nothing to do with public safety then, is it? This is nothing to do with public safety. How is it public safety?
It is, because it's reducing... It's reducing. There are 12% of the British prison population were born overseas. This is 10,422 foreign nationals. Prisons are already bursting at the seams. We only have 700 places left. Surely getting rid of 10,500 dangerous foreign criminals not only protects British citizens when they get out, but it alleviates the pressure on the prison system. And that can only be good for the British taxpayer.
I mean, I think that just from what you've said now, those few lines, it just points out, so many problems with our system. So if someone's been in the system for 7 years, 10 years, been in prison, and they've not been rehabilitated, no treatment has been tried, they've not, there's been no improvement in that. That just shows what a failure our criminal justice system is. And also, why are our prisons bursting at the seams? The point is, again, because governments, politicians don't actually want to do anything constructive about criminal justice, the easy solution is lock everyone up. And I think that's, we rely on prison too much.
Well,
so many people...
Part of the reason, Mr. Khan, our prisons are so full is we have 10,500 foreign-born criminals who've committed violent crimes who are in prison. So this policy specifically and directly targets prison overcrowding, dangerous criminals and equality within Britain. And it's a Labour policy. This is not Donald Trump. It's not even Boris Johnson or Rishi Sunak. This is the Labour Party.
To be honest, when it comes to human rights or anything else, I don't think, to me personally, it makes a difference who proposed the policy. So again, I'm repeatedly saying it's a Labour policy. And I think that, that's why it gives us at least some hope. Maybe with Keir Starmer, former human rights lawyer or lawyer at least, and some of the other cabinet ministers he's selected, they might actually look at it more carefully. It might be slightly more nuanced policy than it would be if it was a Tory policy. So we have that slight hope. But otherwise, I don't think it makes a difference who the government is. The point is, if what we're doing, if it's going to be a blanket policy, anyone who serves more than 5 years, regardless of your life in the UK, anything, you will be deported automatically. That is something that I would oppose.
OK, Shoaib Khan, we'll have to leave it there. We've got a change of government, but we haven't got a change of position on the human rights of criminals. Thanks very much for joining us. Now, Chris, hope you're still here in the studio. I know you were itching to get into that debate there, but I simply had to press on. Yep. Is this an example, do you think, of how the human rights lawyers historically have always frustrated the Conservative Party? Now the Labour Party are about to get a taste of their own medicine.
Well, they might well do. I was going to ask that guest there, is it the case that we have lots of Brits overseas in prisons, and is it simply a revolving door? We even if they get even half that many sent overseas, will a lot come back and be repatriated to our penal system here? I'm never quite sure what the net gain might be by doing this, but it is a problem. And why are 12% of our inmates foreign nationals?
But when specifically pushed on the matter there, as an example, a hypothetical question, that we have a dangerous foreign-born rapist, this government wants to get them back to their country. He said, no, we protect their human rights and allow them to hopefully not reoffend in Britain.
It's dogged Labour government that's going back into the noughties. I mean, the issue of foreign national prisoners there, you couldn't send them back, and why can't we? Many people watching this will be wondering that question just now.
And I wonder if the human rights lawyers, the human rights industry, which for so long has frustrated the Conservatives, now, ironically, with a huge dollop of irony, might become a problem for this new Labour government. Chris Hope, excellent stuff.